The Wind is My Mother, Bearheart, and Molly Larkin, Chapter 15, Becoming a Vessel, The Vision Quest. At one point when I was going to school, I wanted some extra money, so I went to a neighbor and offered to cut a tree stump out of his yard. Boy, it seemed easy to cut wood in those days. But after I hacked away all the roots and dug up the stump, I still couldn't budge it. After a while, an old farmer came along. "Hey, Sonny, what are you doing there?" "I'm trying to remove the stump." "Well, did you cut the taproot?" "What's that?" "That's the middle root that reaches down deep into the earth. That tree has one, and as long as it's there, you can't move it." When I cut it, I was finally able to move that trunk, but as long as that taproot was intact, it couldn't be moved. In order to be upright, solid individuals, we need to send our roots deep into the source from which life comes. If your life is built on something solid, the winds and the storms of life may blow, you may sway back and forth, but you will stand strong as long as you firmly hold on to that life-giving force. Sitting Bull. You may have heard of the famous Hunk Papa Sioux Chief Sitting Bull. The name Sitting Bull referred to a bull buffalo sitting on the crest of a hill, not because he's tired, not because he's given up, but rather because he sits looking at where he's been and what he has meant to others. He was revered by the Indian people as a source of their survival, food, clothing, and shelter. To non-Indians, he was sport, driven to the brink of extinction. He looks back on that history, and after looking back, he turns and looks forward. He turns and looks toward the future. There is always a point where it's beneficial to stop and take stock of our lives, to look back and access all the experiences that got us this far, asking, what have I learned? How can I use these experiences to enable me to keep going forward? Everything we've experienced, including the hurts, disappointments, and frightening times, had a part in shaping us and showing us what we're made of. Sometimes we've been driven to our knees in despair. There were times when we didn't know whether there would be another day or not because the situation was so bad, so devastating. We may have felt like giving up because it seemed as if there were nowhere to go, no one to talk to on this planet. We build up many attachments that may need to be blown away by the tornadoes of life, leaving us a clear path to travel on. It doesn't matter how physically frail we might be, there is a power inside that gives us the strength we need to keep going forward. So, like the buffalo sitting down and assessing, that's where this great Indian Sitting Bull received his name. You can't walk or run all the time. Sit down occasionally and see your surroundings. If you go in and out of a house every day, there may be one particular blade of grass on the lawn that always stands there watching you go by, but you don't even notice it because you're preoccupied with getting to work on time. You're thinking about the traffic. You're thinking about the day ahead. When I get to the office, I'm going to do this and that. And you miss this little blade of grass that stands as a protector, trying in its own way to filter the air so we can all breathe better. The grass and its relatives are beneficial to our bodies, so next time you rush out, stop, look down, and say thank you before you go on. It's an injection of joy and beauty into your life. That little blade of grass has life just as we have life. Sit down and notice the world around you. If that Sitting Bull could talk, what would he say to us? What would he teach us? He has great strength. He's a leader of the herd. they're under his charge and who's responsible for their safety. And he looks not only back, but to what lies ahead. In my heart and mind, I think there were many times when he looked up to see those who went before him. Who has played a part in your life that has made you what you are today? As you look back, who was there helping you? I talked about my mother starting me off as an infant. There have been many, many people involved in my life. Our lives become more meaningful when we remember those who went before us. They made a way for us, and we're grateful. Like the sitting bull buffalo, the bear also takes time for assessment and rejuvenation. He eats enough during the year to sustain him during the winter. In hibernation, he's resting all over, not only his body, but his whole being, while he's safe and warm in his den. Likewise, in my tribe, we prepared for the winter before the cold set in. If we had any livestock, we butchered them and put them up in a smokehouse, and we stored up our firewood. We were more or less all set for winter, so it was a time to slow down and contemplate, to review the past year and consider how things will be in the coming spring. We made plans and enjoyed the moment. Friends and family came to our home, and we talked things over. Among my people, it was the time to tell our legends and laugh a lot. For a while, we stopped beating ourselves over and over with the same routine. We got away from it all, rejuvenating and replenishing ourselves. Whatever we do in life starts with us. To be replenished, we need to keep emptying ourselves to receive more. And that way we become vessels, holding up one hand to receive the blessing and then opening up the other hand so we become channels, letting those blessings flow into the lives of others. Vision Quest. If we really want to know ourselves, at some point in life, we're going to have to surrender to a higher wisdom who knows all about us, our weaknesses, our mistakes, and our potentials. Many Native American tribes do that through our meditation known as the Vision Quest, the setting aside of a time and place alone out in nature to communicate with a higher being and explore that which is within. Somewhere in that space of time, as we are questing, answers come. It's an opportunity to know more about ourselves and some of the options that we have to choose from in life. Originally, the Vision Quest was undertaken for the safety of the tribes because they lived in a world of upheaval with many wars and battles. Young warriors wanting strength and knowledge, or leaders seeking guidance and answers, would go out alone to fast in the presence of the great being. They looked upwards because that's where the presence seemed to come from, and yet many times it seemed to come from the earth, or it came with the wind. So the great presence couldn't be contained in just one area. They didn't have any formal means of praying. They were simply opening themselves to receive. They didn't regard it as prayer. It was communication. Even today, a Vision Quest entails many hours of meditating and fasting and doing without everyday comforts as Vision Questers empty themselves of attachments in order to become ready to receive. And as they fast and wait for communication, they begin to have what's known as insight. One time, as I was about to begin a ceremony and was getting my paraphernalia in order, someone came and sat down next to me. After that person got settled, he spoke to me. "Hey, brother." I looked over him. "Yes?" "I want you to know I'm going to be in your ceremony, and I'm blind." "Oh, you are?" "Yes, I'm blind." "You know, the Creator gave us a beautiful blessing in the form of sight. Many of us can see a beautiful sunset, the stars, and the full moon that lights the night sky. We can see a beautiful picture or read a beautiful verse. But if we don't have sight, He gave us something even more glorious. It's called insight, and even a blind man can have that." He said, "Thank you, brother. It's one thing to have sight, but it's a greater gift to have insight into the things that count. That's what our people explored within themselves on a vision quest. They didn't do it through school. They did it with communication. And through the communication, they began to understand a little bit more about themselves and their lives. When I was in my mid-20s, I vision quested at Bear Button. When I was in my mid-20s, I vision quested at Bear Butte, South Dakota. It was my fourth quest, and the man who put me up there, a Cheyenne elder, has been gone a long time now. On the third day of my fast, I was sitting in my vision quest site, holding my pipe in my hand, when a bear came walking up to me. This was not a vision or a dream or hallucination. It was real, live bear. I laid my pipe down, and the bear stood up. When a bear stands up, he's going to attack. Not wanting a big, heavy bear pouncing down on me, I stood up too, and as I did, he tapped me on my right shoulder. He didn't really strike hard at all, but he was so strong, he knocked me down. I got back up, and he struck me with the other paw and knocked me down again. When I got up and spoke to him in my own language, my dad was of the Bear clan. Then I got up and spoke to him in my own language. My dad was of the Bear clan, so the bear is my father. I've been told to talk to my father, so I stand here talking to you now. If you want to put your mark on me, go ahead. Do whatever satisfies you. I respect you as my father, so I'm not afraid of you. I'm not going to fight you, and I'm not going to run. The bear seemed to listen all that time. Then he turned around and walked away. I went down the mountain and told my sponsor what had happened. He said, "That bear knocked you down twice, yet you didn't hesitate. Instead, you spoke to him and he listened. When someone has to defend himself, he usually employs force. But instead of defensive actions, it can be better to explain your situation as you did to the bear. Say what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. Come to an understanding, and you won't have to use force. Because you stood up to him and didn't run or fight, you showed the spirit and courageous heart of the bear. You have earned the name Bearheart." So on that quest, I learned something about myself and my role in life, as well as earned my name. On higher ground. Our great Native American leaders went on many vision quests because each quest is different. We keep adding on. We cannot learn all there is to learn in one shot. When the great mystery opens its curtains for just a little peek, there is so much involved we can't contain it all. So we add to what knowledge we have a little at a time through the experiences we have on vision quests. Today, both men and women vision quest to receive direction for their lives. They don't go on vision quests to become great leaders, but to take charge of themselves as individuals so that they can function as a whole in mind, body, and spirit. It's important to function as a complete whole and not leave one part of yourself somewhere else. You may be sitting here but thinking of something 500 miles away, and that's not functioning as a whole. A vision quest usually takes place on a high mountain if it's available. That's why we often refer to vision questing as going up on a hill. The mountain is preferable because on a high mountain we have a better perspective of the world in which we live. When we raise our altitude, it also raises our attitude because our perspective broadens, not only visually but inwardly. They go hand in hand. The higher ground seems to give us a sense of the mountain's power, and we can receive strength from it. Someone like feeling the atmosphere of worship in a cathedral or temple. Somewhat like feeling the atmosphere of worship in a cathedral or temple. Our faith will become stronger just by being up high. We are not looking down in the sense of being above everything else. It actually makes us more humble to see that we came from below. Being on higher ground seems to create an atmosphere of being close to the Creator. He can come to us more easily. Down below is where most of the activity takes place with other people. So what we're doing is setting ourselves apart from our daily way of living and climbing to a higher place to receive a different kind of communication. When a mountain isn't available, a vision quest can take place on any piece of land because according to our elders, wherever we stand, anywhere on this planet, is the center of the universe. And in the center, we have the Great Spirit who can surround us. When I put someone on a vision quest, they go without food and water for anywhere from 1 to 4 days. This is a way of setting aside the daily aspects of life in order to seek communication with a higher being. Fasting without food and water is not easy. But if something comes to us easily, where is the glory and victory or achievement? When you have earned something, then you have a good feeling inside because you know you're able to endure. That's why I always say, what is the mark of a good warrior if he has no scars? What battle did he fight? When you see someone all scarred up and still going on, you can say, that's a good warrior. So far, I have sent 4 MDs on 4-day fasts, even though many of their colleagues say no one can survive that long without food or water. Yet they all survived. In order to receive something, we have to make room for it. If a glass is full of pebbles, it won't hold much water because the rocks take up most of the space. If we have too many attachments, too much activity going on in our life, very little blessing can come in. By fasting, not only do we empty ourselves physically, but we empty our minds and attitudes to receive new thoughts and concepts. That's what we're doing out there, emptying ourselves to receive communication, to know ourselves better. Known only to God. On a quest, you're searching for something. Some people don't exactly know what their individual role in life is, or perhaps they've tried various avenues that didn't seem to work out. People often seek external means to satisfy an internal questing, but sometimes they can't put their finger on what they're looking for, and that brings on an unresolved anxiety, always feeling unfulfilled in everything that they do. So what do you do when you go on this quest? How do you connect with your inner consciousness? In my tribe, the process of self-knowledge involves asking yourself 3 questions. The first question is, who am I? In order to succeed in anything, you have to be able to rely upon your own strong identity. With what and with whom do you identify? To find the answer, you have to search within. You can never satisfy an internal longing with external means. You have to meet it on its own ground within. Our elders taught us that someone else can't say, this is you. You may try to conform to what others think you are, but when all is stripped away, who are you in actuality? It's important to first identify ourselves, not only in relationship to the environment, but in relationship to our parents and cultural background. It's very important to know who you are. You may think you know who you are, but perhaps all you are going by is what you do in life because people tend to identify you with your career. You may think that's who you are, but it's not necessarily who you really are inside. There's a grave in Washington that we call the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, but the inscription goes on to say, known only to God. You have an identity from the one who gave you life. You are known. Search for that path and stay on it. You will not have wisdom until you know yourself. What is your character? What do you believe in? What do you stand for? Are you one who is courageous and can bring about change? Or are you more of a gentle and nurturing nature, encouraging those around you on an individual basis? That's why we go out alone on the vision quest, to know ourselves better. I cannot do it for you. No one else can do it for you. Only you can settle once and for all who you are. Then, after you get that settled, you go on to the next question. What have I become with the who that I am? Someone said a long time ago that when life was given to us, it was a gift from the Creator, and what we make of that life is our gift back to the Creator. Do you have a mother you honor? Do you have a father you honor? Maybe they're not here anymore, but you can still honor them by a manner in which you live. Are you a role model for someone? If so, what kind of role are you playing in life? Would little one be proud to follow in your footsteps? What have you become? Have you dragged yourself through many experiences to where you are now? Have you ever considered asking the Creator if you are in the right place and the right job? Is there something more that could go along with that? And are you happy with what you are doing? Is this the right road for you? Or is it a springboard to greater things yet to come? In this questing, you determine who you are and what you have become. Then that leads to the third question. Why am I here? We walk around as human beings, supposedly with higher intelligence, but there is a purpose for our actions. If we sent out a questionnaire with one question, what is the purpose of your life? The answers would be very interesting. Some people mistake goals as their purpose. A goal can be a means toward a purpose, but it's not an end in itself. You may have a goal of becoming a lawyer or a doctor, but if you have nothing more in mind, you may not reach the true purpose of your life. If it's in the field of justice, whether it's the law enforcement or using the gift of rhetoric in a courtroom situation, is it really justice you're after, or the big fee that's involved? There's a reason why you're here, but have you tried to find out what that reason is? Have you fulfilled all of your potential? What motivates you to be who you are? Is it money and accumulation of material rewards, or something else? If you're a cook, you can cook with love and know that the food you prepare is eaten by someone whose life will be extended. If you are a doctor, shopkeeper, lawyer, or carpenter, whatever your career, you have the opportunity to enrich others. Your work can bring you a sense of satisfaction, yet at the same time, you can feel humbled by the fact that you have an opportunity to be of service to others through your chosen field. Those are the three questions that could occupy you the whole time during this quest. You don't have to answer all those questions while you're out there alone, but they may open up some new avenues you haven't considered before about your life. When you've settled those things for yourself, you more or less know what direction you're headed for in life and will feel more confident. That doesn't mean that your path is going to be easy, but it's going to be worthwhile. Power from small things. On a vision quest, communication may come to you in dreams or ideas through a bird or animal or even a plant. If a bird or animal comes to you on your quest, learn something about it. This is where your power of observation come into play. What are some of the qualities of that bird or four-legged being? How can you appropriate those qualities for your own life? That animal is a helper designated to assist you, so learn all you can about it. When I put someone on a vision quest, they relate to me afterwards all their experiences, what they saw, the sounds they heard, what they felt or dreamt during this period of time. I interpret all these things, and during that interpretation, they may receive answers to some vital questions. Many people think that they're going to see some kind of an apparition on a vision quest. I once sent on a vision quest a non-Indian who carried a big ledger-type notebook with lots of yellow legal sheets. I guess he was ready for a lot of visions. When he asked if he could take the notebook with him during his fast, I answered, "You might as well. You've been thinking about it. Might as well take it." After a few days, I brought him back down. He had most of his notebook filled with all kinds of drawings, poetry, and philosophy, but he seemed very disappointed. Apparently, he had a preconceived notion that he would see a white buffalo or an eagle or something very dramatic. But all he ended up seeing was one thing. Right in front of me, there was this little patch of grass, and no matter where I looked, I always came back to one blade of grass right in the middle of it. That's your power symbol. What? Your power symbol is a blade of grass. Suppose you had seen an eagle. Compare an eagle feather to this grass. If you were a good marksman with a bow and arrow, you could shoot an eagle feather and break it right in two. If you shoot at a blade of grass, it's so supple it will bend with the force of the arrow and come right back up. The wind may blow hard, but after the wind passes over, the grass will rise again. In all life situations, we can learn from our environment, even from a blade of grass. It's teaching you adaptability, to keep getting up in the face of any difficulty. Power doesn't always come through big things when you were looking for a big thing, but there can be big power through a small thing. We complicate life by thinking that my whole life is a big drama, when we're just meant to live a simple life and enjoy it. Let the small things help to fulfill some of your dreams and your aspirations. Traveling on the smoke. When people go on vision quests, they need guidance and instruction. They need to know what to look for, so they should have a qualified sponsor to tell them these things. When I sponsor my vision quest after I have sent all the questers up on the hill, I don't leave the land at all because it's still my responsibility to look after them. There may be anywhere from 1 to 15 people fasting at the same time, each in an isolated spot, and I stay in tune with each one who has gone up, and I maintain that contact with them in my own way until they come back down. Before the questers go up to fast, a fire is started for the sweat lodge, and it stays burning at all times. It's the heart of the vision quest. I work with that fire for the protection of the vision questers. In some areas, I've had to keep bears and mountain lions away during the vision quest, and many times I've had to keep snakes away, especially the rattlers. If there are rattlesnakes in the area, I shape a snake out of the coals, and I put sweetgrass down and talk to the spirit of the snake, asking it to do no harm to the questers. And I pray for the protection of the snakes as well. If there are other dangerous animals in the area, such as bears or mountain lions, I make a semblance of the shape of that particular animal with the coals and do likewise. Around 10 o'clock at night, I fill the pipe and send the smoke to surround each quester and protect him or her from all harm of any kind, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. At midnight, I do the same thing, and again at 2 and 4 in the morning. I hardly sleep while each one is up there. I stay up most of each night until the last quester has come down and I have attended to him or her. Often, I will get up and smoke before the designated times if I feel someone is in need. I travel physically on the smoke of the sacred pipe and surround people who are up there in order to check on them and see to their safety. If they are in need of help, I will know about it, and I can take care of them without having to go see them in person. There are times when a spirit may appear to someone on a vision quest, and he or she immediately knows that spirit is quite powerful and that has something to tell him or her. It may even frighten him or her because of its power. Or our bodies are not ready to be on the same plane as spirits in the spirit world on a regular basis. They exist at a higher velocity vibration, and we're not accustomed to it. If the spirits were with us all the time, it would make us physically ill. But from time to time, we catch glimpses of a spirit, and we benefit from its guidance and instruction. It can't be assumed that all spirits are good, which is why the sponsor must be able to protect each of the vision questers. Some spirit may say, "Hey, come here and take a walk," then lead him to fall over a cliff in the dark, or maybe to an animal waiting to pounce. That spirit may be trying to get at the sponsor through them. Let's see how he'll deal with this. I'll do this to one of the questers and see how powerful his smoke is from down below. When I smoke my pipe, I pray that no harm of any kind will come to the vision questers. Surround each one individually and keep them safe. Please be there to give them the strength to know how to face whatever temptations and feelings might come. Let them receive good communication. That's the way my prayers go when I smoke my pipe. When I meet with each person, when they come back down, and help them to interpret what happened for them, what the lesson is for them in life, these are just some of the things that I do as a sponsor of a vision quest. I have to put 2 people on a vision quest from a distance while I stayed at home. My belief is such that the power of communication with the sacred pipe is not limited by distance. It will still surround them. One girl presented me with tobacco, and I prayed with her. Then she went to South Dakota to a vision quest. I stayed in New Mexico and smoked my pipe for her as if I was right there, and everything went well. She went through some difficult moments, but I was able to explain them to her when she came back and saw me. Afterwards, as traditional, she gave me a donation. A year later, she decided to vision quest on her own and went back to South Dakota. She didn't ask me to sponsor her because she felt badly that she had nothing to offer me. If I had known, I would have taken care of her, but she didn't even tell me she was going. After she completed her vision quest, her totaled out truck was found near Rapid City. She was in a coma, with her back broken in 3 places, and most of her hair and underlying flesh gone, as if she had been scalped. Although she recovered physically, some of her vision quest is still blanked out by the concussion she experienced. I'm not saying that this will happen to someone without a sponsor, but on a vision quest, one is exposed to a variety of entities in such a way that they must have some form of protection. That protection will ensure they experience good communication on a vision quest and not attract anything negative. The stillness within us. A vision quest is not about looking for a ghost or spirit. By fasting, you become a container, a vessel, emptying yourselves to receive communication from a higher being who can show you something you can use in your daily life. That's what I should be doing. This should be my path. This is what will help me. It's a time of communication to this one source. And when you return to your daily routine, you can function on the spiritual level as well as in the external world around you. The survival of our society depends on people who have a good communication with the spiritual. That's our salvation. And without it, society deteriorates into politics and greed. We see it almost daily. If we were to look at the people in the United States, I wonder how big the spiritual nature would be compared to the population as a whole. It would probably be a little midget within us because we have failed to nurture the spiritual potential within our lives, never feeding or exercising it. Are we truly spiritual, or are we just church members? There's a difference. So how do we activate the midget within us? By getting away from the hub of all activity that seems to be going nowhere but in circles. The beauty of silence, the lack of frenzied activity for a period of time, helps us collect our thoughts and center our lives so we can maintain a sense of calm when we return to the hectic society and resume our work. We will be able to cope with life's many challenges by incorporating that stillness into our daily lives. That stillness is actually the presence of the higher being who is with us at all times, even in the busy city. Get away, get in touch once again with what life was supposed to be about, balancing the physical and spiritual. We have many religions, but we only have one spirituality, and that's what we need everywhere, not only in this country, but in the entire world. You might say, we're in the 1990s now. Maybe what he's talking about happened way back when the buffaloes were roaming along the plains, but what good will it do in an urban situation? What good is it to receive communication from the spirit on a vision quest is going to leave as soon as I get back to the city limits? What good is all the time and energy spent? If that communication is good enough, it's going to stay with you in Los Angeles, New York, or Chicago. Even though the attainment of it may require a certain quietness and isolation, find quiet moments alone. Even if it's in the closet or the shower, try to communicate. The same source that was here years ago is still in force with all its power intact. And if that source can't be present in today's society, then what good is it? The spirit can be in the business world, it can be in the movie world, it can be anywhere. If you feel that it would be hard to incorporate the traditional values of the Native American into today's society, into what you're doing now, then you're saying something must be wrong with the spirit. Whether you're an executive in an office building or a nurse in the emergency room, the spirit is there.